we doing? I'm Dusty. I got Tyler with me. How we doing, Tyler?
Hey, doing pretty good, man. How are you?
Trying to stay warm, man. This winter is just never ending, it feels like.
No, like it's crazy. I was working this morning and it was just pouring the rain, and then like not even 30 minutes later it started snowing. I'm like, what are we doing here? Like,
Yeah. Dude, I heard it this morning, just kind of icing that changeover. I'm like, oh, bro. Like, then before I knew it, there's a few inches on the ground. It's like, oh, I'm done with this, dude. It really feels, maybe just because the Bengals haven't been in the playoffs or something, but geez, it feels like it's been months since, uh, I don't know, fall time, since since the weather was just 55, 65 degrees, man. It's felt like a hot minute.
no,
But
for
I'm over
sure.
it. I'm ready for free agency to get here, the draft and summertime, and all the fun OTA stuff, and then football season again. But I'm definitely going to enjoy my summer. The older I get, the more I enjoy that summertime, because I used to love the winter. I didn't have a problem with it. Man, it's snow. I'd be outside 10 hours just running around, messing around on the side by side, or doing, anything and everything. Cutting wood was fun to do in the winter, so I didn't care. But now I'm like, dude, I did not want to be out there, bro. Um, well, it's been a while since we've talked. I feel like we got a lot that we can talk about. But we start out with them Buckeyes in that national title game.
That's right. OH.
IO, dude, what a game, man. What a season for them. Happy that they might have lost to Michigan, but they won the national title. You lose to Michigan and win national title. I'm choosing the national title over beating them. Like, I don't care about it as much as I did when I was younger. Probably because when I was younger, I had friends that were Michigan fans, and you had to listen to them and the back and forth. But now I don't really have to deal with that. So it's like, just give me a title, man. Give me them rings. So at least some team in Ohio can do it for us.
We've been pretty good with first here in the last like 10 years. Obviously, 2014, we were the first ever college football playoff national championship
Yeah,
winners. That was the year I graduated, actually, 2014, going into the
right.
2015 calendar year. First ever. And then obviously we switched to the 12 team playoff format this year, and we just steamrolled everybody. Like, nobody stood a chance. And
Yeah,
that's what happens. Obviously we lost to Michigan. That might have been, and I hate that team up north, but that might have been honestly a blessing in disguise, because like none of the teams that were on a bye, I don't think were any. They weren't productive at all, because Notre Dame, Texas, us, I forget who was the Penn State. Every single one of those teams that made the Final Four did not have a bye um, in the Final Four, and obviously that showed like everybody. Um, everybody was the teams that had a bye. Like, excuse me, the like Georgia. Obviously they were fresh, but they weren't ready, and
right.
no team was ready for Ohio State. And I don't know. Let's see if we can do it again next year. I don't know, but the number one thing on my mind going into next year is beating Michigan. That is the
Yeah,
number one thing on my mind next year.
yeah. I mean, I want the national championship again. I don't
I
I
mean,
don't
well,
care
yeah, yeah.
how we get there and what we do. Obviously, beating Michigan's high up on that to do list of things Buckeyes want to see done. But I love having a team that I can root for and expect these type of titles instead of wishing and hoping. It's like, okay, like the Buckeyes, you expect them to be good. You expect, excellence. With the Bengals, it's kind of like, you get that little bit of hope for a couple seasons. You kind of expect it, and then just, I don't know. I've been feeling in the dumps about them guys, bro. Just so much talent. I think what makes me the most frustrated is how much talent the team had on rookie deals, and they never capitalized on it. You had the Joe, Jamar, T, these guys. Like, it was so cheap, in they just weren't able to capitalize on that, and that right there is what irritates me the most. Um, and now we're in a position where we got to retain those guys, and now we have to pay them. And probably should have got the deals done sooner. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so that is what it is. You got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think honestly this goes without saying, and we say this every year, but I mean I don't think it rings more true than this year. But this might be the most important offseason in our team's history. Obviously, we drafted Joe Burrow in the 2020 draft. Immediately changed the culture for our team. We expect to win. Joe Burrow wants to win. He expects to win, and he doesn't expect mediocrity. And yeah, we've had not had a losing season in a little over 4 years, but 2 of the last 4 we've also missed the playoffs too, finishing 3rd and 4th in the division respectively. But we've gotta hit this free agency. Obviously, the whole thing with T coming about, getting rid of David Mulligetta, that was a huge step.
I agree.
Before he did that, I didn't think we were going to bring him back at all, other than maybe just signing him to another franchise tag after last year. But then he decided just to get up and get rid of him like during the middle of the season. Like what? What? Okay, so that told me like there's a chance, and like shot it up to like 55, 60% in my mind. That the only thing that still is concerning to me is, obviously he wants that wide receiver one money. He wants around the $30 million mark, and whether or not the Bengals do it, I don't know. Because obviously we still need to keep Chase, and I don't doubt Chase is coming back. He's not going anywhere. Jamar
Yeah.
Chase is not, and Trey Hendrickson, third all time in Bengals history in sacks. Has the chance this year, if he replicates his 17 and a half sack total, has the chance to pass Geno Atkins for second all time. Which, by the way, Geno's eligible for the Hall of Fame now. I believe next year, if I'm not mistaken. So and he's only going into his 5th year, so we got to get him back too. Yeah, no, this is really important, and the whole news of the Jermaine Pratt thing. I know, probably that was one of the topics you were going to bring up next, but
Yep.
him and Mixon. I felt the same way. Like, I love Mixon. I didn't want him to go, but I understood it. The same thing with Jermaine Pratt. Like, on one hand, he has been the sole root, and like obviously he's not the only one, but he was the start of it, of the whole tackling issue process. Like, honestly, I put most of that on him, because that Chiefs game in 2022, I was there. It was like a few days after my daughter was born, actually, but I was there, and he punched the ball out of Travis Kelsey's. And obviously, Travis Kelsey fumbled. We got the ball. We win the game. Um, at the same time, though, like over the last 2 years, tackling has gone downhill since that game. We've been the worst tackling team, if not the second worst tackling team in the NFL. And so that's if he's requesting a trade, if I'm the Bengals, I think we do it. You got to get something for it. You can't just let him walk, because I think that's like a negative hit towards the cap, if I'm not mistaken.
It's
I'm not too smart on the dollar signs and everything, but I think
I know it's not much. It's like 2 million. So I think we'll save 5, but we'll have a negative like 2 million. So you're still saving 5 by getting rid of him, by cutting him. So I think he's going to be cut. So best thing possible, we get a 7th round pick. I really don't know. I don't think teams are going to be too hungry for him. You might get somebody like Lou, who wants his guy. You get him cheap for a 7th rounder or something like that they might take a swing at it. But I don't know. I'm cool with Jermaine. Jermaine was he did some really awesome things for the Bengals, and he had that year, that 2021, where it was a contract year for him, I believe, and he had a great year. Him and Logan Wilson, the way they paired up, man, was it was something we haven't seen through a linebacker core for the Bengals in such a long time, that it was just dominant. But the same with Sam Hubbard. He had a great year that year, probably arguably his best year, and then the decline started, and you just kind of you gotta trim the fat, man. Nobody wants to see their favorite players leave, but you also want to see your favorite team win championships. So
no, for sure. And like the whole thing with Pratt too, like the other thing I was going to mention is, like, you can't, like forever in my mind, at least, I don't know about anybody else's, but for my mind, he's forever a Cincinnati legend. Like, you could put him in the Ring of Honor in 20 years, I don't care, because of one thing that he did that playoff game against the Raiders. I think you know where I'm going with this. He had that interception, which caused us to win our first playoff game in 31 years. That
My
means
life.
I was born in '95, so that's my lifetime too. He picked that off of Derek Carr and won the game for us, and I'll never forget it. That's something I will never forget for the rest of my life. Winning that playoff game, and Jermaine Pratt was a huge reason behind it. So I have no ill will towards him at all. So if they cut him or if they trade him, that's fine. But at the same time, like I don't hate the man. He's got all the respect in the world for me just for that time as well. So
Yeah, I definitely I don't have no, bad like feelings toward him other than I wish he would have tackled a little better. And I don't know, he seemed like he played slow last year. I don't know if that was or the past couple years really. I don't know if that was just him, trying to figure out the defense, not having some of his guys in the just in the back end of that defense to help out with it or what. But there was a regression that happened, and it's unfortunate, but that it happens in sports. And I think the city of Cincinnati and all Bengals fans are thankful for what he did. But at the end of the day, it's a business, and I want to win a Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Like I want that. And if it comes with cutting some of our favorite players, then it does. Like every good team is going to lose pieces. It just is what it is. You just have to refill them, restock, and your core pieces you have to keep together. Like T. Higgins, he's a part of that core piece. A couple years ago, I was like, dude, why? Like, let's re-sign him. Let's re-sign him, and it's going to be cheaper. Just the wide receiver market's going to keep going up. And then we don't sign him. Then the following year we get a tag, and then this year who knows what. And now you have no leverage to really trade the guy. You could trade him, you could tag and trade, but I don't think you're going to get as much as you would have a couple years ago. Like just because it's like, oh, is T going to play on the tag? Is he not? And if he does play on it, why didn't you just give him the money, Michael Pittman money, a couple years ago? Which was like 3 years, 75 mil, might have been like 40 or 50 million guaranteed. So I don't know. I always want T. I feel like I talk about T every time I'm on the show about how much I like the guy. I do. I think the offense is totally different with him out there. His first couple years he was healthy, and then last couple he's had some just little issues that came up, kept him out of games and stuff. But I still think he's worth keeping around. 30 million's that's a lot of money. Yeah. But I think the Bengals could probably work something out to make it maybe a little like 27 million is not that bad. Like 27 million. Yeah. Like that's a little less. You're still not that 30 mark. But if you're sitting there telling me, T's a $30 million guy, but you're not going to get anything for him in the open market, like that's a little weird. Like he's number one free agent, he's $30 million wide receiver. Like, yeah, he's valuable. So when you see people on Twitter and stuff like saying that, or listening to people on shows saying like it's like, dude, he's worth some high end picks. You could throw a player in and a pick or something, but he's definitely got a lot of value.
No, for sure. He's what's the word I'm looking for? We got to sign him because his value, he on the field, he is irreplaceable. When he's on the field, he's the best number 2 receiver in the league. And when Jamar Chase has been out, he's been he's shown up, not every game, but most of the games, he's stepped up as the number 1 receiver and played good for us in 2 when Jamar Chase has been out. So on the field productivity, like it's not replaceable. You got to bring that guy back because if you don't, pick 18 becomes more in question than what we actually think it is. Because if you don't bring him back, obviously he's the number 1 wide receiver free agent in this class and in the free agency class. Honestly, there's good receivers in the draft, sure, but it's you're not going to get you're not going to get his
good draft.
Yeah, no, for sure. But you're not going to get his value. You're not going to get his same productivity at pick 18, picking a wide receiver if you just let him walk for nothing.
Yeah.
And like you cannot replace T. Higgins with someone else and expect the same results. It just won't happen.
Yeah. I don't even think you're probably not going to get 80% of a healthy T. You know what I mean? Like you might, but still, that's going to be really hard to find. I saw a stat on him the other day where it was how many third down receptions he had, and it's a big number. Like it is a big number. So what that says, Joe Burrow trusts him on third down to make the play, convert the down, have the new set of downs or whatever. But he, 2 touchdowns in the Super Bowl. He had, I think it was against the Chiefs, that regular season game that won us the AFC North, where we just need to get one more first down. It might have been like a 3rd and 7. He cuts across the middle of the field. Joe throws a dime to him, catches it, gets hit, first down. We run the clock out. And that's just what I think. I think of T. I think of a reliable guy when he's called to be the number one, like you said. He can be that number one dominant dude. When Jamar's out there, I wouldn't really say he's playing second fiddle or nothing. But when Jamar's just different, total different receiver, but they both complement each other really well in what they do. And T can be he's a deep threat. He can get up and get the ball. I think it might have been Tennessee where he got lit up on like a 50-yard bomb by Joe this past year. And maybe it wasn't Tennessee. It doesn't matter. But he gets hit. He basically had the corner and the safety. Boom. I think it was the safety cracks him and he catches it in the end zone. Big time play, big catch. But in my opinion, got to keep him. They should have. The Bengals, where they got to get better at is resign their guys early and quit thinking it feels like players outplay their contract with them. Oh, they're, Jesse Bates, bring him up once again. But like they have these guys that come out and they do perform and they play well and they play at a top tier level. And it's like, well, I don't think we can pay them, or we lowball them or whatever, and I just hate that. Like, I don't like it. I don't like seeing guys like, okay, Jermaine Pratt, yes, he had a good year in 21, and we paid him. We re-signed him, and a lot of people didn't think we was going to because the comments after the game, and it was the game against it was the AFC Championship game against the Chiefs, and he made the comments about Joseph Osai, but they re-signed him and they paid him. But if Jermaine was playing at just that top tier best linebacker in the league, are the Bengals going to value that and pay him linebacker one money? Or are they just going to say, no, we'll replace him in the draft? So that's the biggest frustration with him. Another guy, Joseph Osai, he's a free agent now. I don't know. I don't really know what his value or his market's looking like. I would like to see Osai come back if the money's right, but I don't know. What do you think Osai is going to get out there?
So that's I'm glad you brought up Osai because his agent is David Mulligetta.
Mm-hmm.
Is he the first one we bring back? That's a David Mulligetta guy. Is he the first one?
I don't know. I mean, it's not like, he's a top tier dude that is going to demand this crazy amount of money, but I think there's going to be teams out there that's going to like him. Like, if I'm not mistaken, Osai is really young. I'm pretty sure he's still very young. So he's shown that he's got the juice. He was closing the end of the season, getting a few sacks, and he's done it in the past. Last year was a really not a great year for him, and really the start of this year was not good. But I think there is something for him. I think he's got value, but I don't think he's going to be a crazy top tier dude. But I don't know. I don't know what his value is. Like, I don't know. Like, if somebody said he was getting, 10 million per year, like a 3-year, 30 million. I don't know how I even feel about that. And I don't feel like that's crazy. What do you think? Where do you think he's at? An edge rusher in his prime, coming into his prime, really?
Well, I was going to say Joseph Osai, if he comes back, he's not starting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think like Miles Murphy, Trey Hendrickson, unless they decide to start the other guy they drafted last year. I don't know.
Cedric
Obviously,
Johnson.
yeah, Cedric Johnson. Thank you. So David Mulligetta likes to get his guys paid. There's no question on that. Will they or will he try? Obviously, if he tries to overcompensate for Osai with the Bengals and no negotiations, I don't think they bring him back. But it just depends on like what they do because Osai, like he showed promise in some games, but obviously that some other games he hasn't too. In the Chiefs game, we all thought he was going to like the next season after the AFC Championship game in which we lost. We all thought he was going to like awaken a monster inside him after that penalty. We all thought he was going
Yeah.
to turn beast mode, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
Um, like we all thought that would be a good motivating tool. I think him and Pratt may have got into. I don't remember the whole gist of it, but like after that, but yeah, that's which also that was a ticky tack too. Like Mahomes has got to stop that. But anyway, I don't know. I honestly don't know like what the number would be. Honestly, I wouldn't pay him top dollar. At the same time, I don't know what the Bengals are wanting to spend because like on a guy like him because obviously we got to get our top guys taken care of first, and then fill in pieces like we did in 2020 and 2021. That's the kind of free agency we need to be having again.
Hmm. For sure. Yeah, for sure. And they should have had that again in 2022, like
Yeah, yeah,
2023. Like it said, they stepped on the gas for, a couple years and they said, okay, let's hold up on this. We got the guys, and then didn't really do anything to work anything out with our top talent. So whatever. That is what it is. Everybody in the chat or watching us live, I put a link out in the chat if anybody wants to hop in, talk to me and Tyler for a minute, give some thoughts. But if anyone's got any, I guess, predictions on what Osai what his value is, go ahead and put that in the chat too, if you don't mind. But the Chiefs game, man, against in the Super Bowl, what a I didn't think I was going to enjoy it as much as I did.
yeah.
And I'm not one of those people where I try my best not to wish ill will or bad things and get joy out of stuff that's, just not hard times coming on people doesn't make me happy. But man, that was a weird feeling that I got watching the Chiefs get beat up on because I was like, dude, I didn't even really want to watch the game. And I started watching. I was like, dude, I can't turn this off. I love this right now. And yeah, it was nice. And the best part was watching the Chiefs look for penalties. You could just tell it was like they were so conditioned to getting these calls throughout the regular season that they were like, what the heck? We're not getting this. And you could just see the look on their faces that was disbelief.
Yeah, so the first drive of the game for the Eagles, I think it was like the 3rd and 7, I think. The Jalen Hurts drops a dime in there to AJ Brown, and they call offensive pass interference,
Oh,
which
that was a
shouldn't have
fourth
happened.
down.
Oh,
That was
fourth
actually
down,
a
yeah,
fourth down. They went
fourth
for
down,
it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Excuse me. So fourth down, and I thought like obviously they called the penalty there. I was like, oh, we're in for a long game. I was like, the Eagles is like you don't know what just hit you there. I was like, you're gonna
Yeah.
get
I thought,
these calls after calls after calls. Like welcome, to what the rest of the NFL feels like. But so that was actually surprising. Um, the Eagles just laid the smackdown on the Chiefs, and it was just incredible to watch. Like I was hate watching, just like most of America was, especially
yeah,
most Bengals fans. Like I don't really have affiliation, or I don't really care for the Eagles that much. Don't get me wrong,
not at all.
but it was nice to see the Chiefs get their butt kicked. Like it was
Mhm.
really nice. And I have a theory on as to why Chiefs didn't get those calls, and as to why, like I think it was like the third quarter, they were down like 27 or whatever the score was, and everybody's like, "Oh well, the Chiefs have a chance. Like this is when they're going to start happening." I think everybody and their mom before the Super Bowl, I think everybody in America put their money on the Chiefs. And I think the one thing that can speak louder than these terrible officials have been all year is money. And I think the books made the call. And
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining about that at all. We got to watch the Chiefs get their butt kicked. So I'm not complaining about that at all. Like now, whether or not this officiating resumes, start to finish next year for them, and this was just a one game thing, I don't know. But I was happy to see the result, and I was also very intrigued by the halftime performance too. That was kind of crazy, but yeah, it was a fun day overall that day. Just to say that much.
Yeah. I think it was a pretty fair game. Like, I think it was officiated well, like may have been the best officiated game of the season, in my opinion, that I've watched. Like, I didn't see anything that was, too bad other than that first initial AJ Brown penalty.
Yeah.
Other than that, like, nothing standing out. It's been 2 weeks ago now or something, but a week ago. And yeah, I thought it was pretty good. Pretty good.
And in the back of my mind too, I'm just like, why can't we get those calls? Like, why can't we have that
Yeah.
fair of an officiated game? Like, come on now. Like, that's just. I'm
Well, that's
happy
how it
for
should
him.
always
Yeah.
be. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It
No, I
should be that
agree.
way
I agree.
across the league. There shouldn't be a biased or any other, thing. And what blows my mind too is the Bengals been talking about this for a few years now. And it's like, man, now everybody is catching on, and it's kind of like, hey, what's the Bengals fans been saying for 3 years? Like, it's not anything new. It's not nothing we haven't saw. So like, it's kind of funny. It's like, yeah, you see what we've been dealing with, and I think we see how good Joe Burrow truly is. Patrick Mahomes had to deal with one game with pressure like Joe Burrow dealt with his whole career, and he did nothing. Like, I think he had like 100 and some yards going into the fourth quarter. Like, it was not good, and they only ran the ball 7 times. I think 7 times that whole game.
How many
And
times was he sacked? Was it more than 8?
I don't know if it was more than 8, but I think it was like 6 or 7. I don't remember. I used sacked quite a bit, but I don't think it was more than 8. But I could be wrong. But man, Joe, just what he can do with limited time, the amount of pressure he gets, and makes it work. And okay, that's why he is the best quarterback in the league, and you can't tell me otherwise, because you put somebody that's supposed to be the best quarterback, somebody that's going to upset Tom Brady, like, and he's not. He didn't have that, did he? And I'm not saying
not at all.
his wide receivers aren't. He doesn't. I wouldn't say he has the weapons that Joe has, but
He made it work. He made it work last year.
Yeah.
With it. So like this, like honestly, to me, there's no excuse. And obviously, when we made the Super Bowl, like we had a bad offensive line.
Dude,
Joe Burrow's not. Yeah, Joe Burrow's
3/5 of that offensive line are not in the league anymore.
Yeah, Joe Burrow has not had a consistent good offensive line since he's been in the league. And you know what? You know what's funny about that situation with Mahomes is, I know PFF likes the rankings and everything and how they score everything. It's not the end all be all, but the Chiefs' offensive line for the whole year was ranked 6th. Eagles were ranked 4th, and Patrick Mahomes still got all that. And
Yeah.
obviously the Bengals offensive line play the last 4 or 5 years has been spotty at best. Burrow would have put up better numbers than what Mahomes did. He would have put up a better fight. That's all I'm saying. Yeah.
I think so. I mean, I don't know if I'm not saying I think the Bengals would have beat the Eagles. I don't think they would have.
Yeah, we got whooped in what was it, week 7?
Yeah.
By the Eagles.
But I think that game was a lot closer. I think going into the third, or going into the fourth quarter from the third, it might have been midway through the third that the Eagles started pulling away. But that first half of that game was close. I think it was a pretty solid game, and then they just pulled away. But they're a good team. They're a really good football team. It's going to be interesting to see what they do this offseason, and that shows what happens when you pay good players and you draft really well. They drafted great. Like they've been drafting and hitting. And I mean, the Bengals, I can't think of somebody they haven't hit. Like they have not hit on anybody since Jamar. Like who they hit on? I guess you could say Mims. Mims played fairly well when he was out there and healthy, and you still have that injury concern with him, and he wasn't able to piece together, a full healthy year. Granted, he was coming off an injury and stuff, and he was kind of fighting through different things. But Duke has not hit on somebody where it's like a Geno Atkins, a third, fourth round dude that comes and plays great for us. You probably say Newt. What the heck's the dude? Fig Newton. Like you probably say, Fig for a fifth round dude played, he had his ups and downs, but he played fairly well when he was out there. But there's no impact player out there that you're just like, wow, like what a great pick. You know what I mean? Yeah. Unless you can think of somebody. But
I mean, maybe no. I was gonna say maybe Chase Brown. Brown's been a big hit,
yeah. Chase Brown, yeah. I guess we could go with that. And I love Chase Brown coming out of the draft, man. I love that kid coming out of the draft. And yeah, I'll give you that. They definitely hit on Chase Brown, but
yeah, and that's like Chase Brown. Like, is that? I'm assuming Zach Moss is coming back, right? Like, I haven't heard anything different on that. He got injured last year.
I'd say cutting.
Yeah, backup running back, still a position in need too. Which, for going into last year, I think what was the talk that like we had no holes, like it was a stacked roster, and now like with just about almost the same exact pieces, we have a lot of holes on the team. And running back, like a backup running back, wide receiver if T doesn't come back. Obviously guards, like interior offensive line, that's a big one too. Defensive tackle, obviously that's one of the big ones too. Like, who do you think we should go after in free agency? Like, who's the top ones? Like maybe a D tackle or edge rusher or guard. Like, what's the names? Like, are you not expecting that you want the Bengals to go after?
So for Milton Williams would be nice. He's going to be, he's going to be the very top of that board.
Yeah.
Could
and the price on him went up too?
Yeah. So, probably not him. I like that kid from Detroit, Levi. I believe his name's Levi. I forget how to say his last name, but he's a defensive tackle.
No.
I can look him up, but I forget. I know he's been a name that's been out there a lot. So there's definitely guys in the defensive tackle room. There's the dude from Dallas, but I don't know. They'll have to bring somebody in. Calais Campbell, bring in until that dude falls off. Like, just see what he does. Yeah. I don't care. Bring in talent. Let people battle it out and see, who wins the roles. And worst comes to worst, you have some solid depth. And not all these guys are going to be $18-20 million signings. You're able to get some people for a reasonable price, like Dalton Risner, like what he signed, vet minimum, pretty much. Like he wasn't that much. Who was the dude that just signed? Oh shoot, he plays for Philly. His last name starts with a B, but he just Malachi. What the heck is his name?
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, but he came in, leaves without a deal. Plays some pretty good football. Like there's guys out there. The Bengals, Becton. Yes, thank you, Travis. But yeah, there's dudes out there that the Bengals could have brought in last year that would have helped us win games this year, and probably could have made us a really strong push for a Super Bowl, possibly. And they didn't. Will Freeze from the Colts. He's a guard, so his PFF ratings are pretty good. He's had some injuries and stuff, but yeah, he's a dude. There's Daniels from Pittsburgh. Obviously our old pal Kevin Zeitler. But there's definitely some guys out there that the Bengals could bring in, and they're gonna have to do it because Kappa's got to be gone, man. Like,
Yeah.
sorry, Kappa, like you got to go. I don't know what happened to him, but that's the thing with the Bengals. It doesn't seem like we've gotten any growth out of players that we've brought in draft picks that we've brought in. The development has been slow and, at best, Cardell Volson's average on his good days, So it's like, and he was a 4th-round pick. I get it. He shouldn't have been starting, but you would like to think he's starting. He's playing between 2 solid veterans. One is, a Pro Bowl or Pro Bowl All-Pro dude at left tackle, and then center Ted Karras. Like, you would think he would play some pretty good football sandwiched between them as a young guy, but
Yeah.
I really thought he was going to have a jump, and that was probably just me being a little too hopeful, I guess. But you didn't see the jump, you didn't see the growth. I think he's really just kind of stayed the same. In the weakness of the offensive line is there, the guards not good, not ideal. So I'm really hoping in the draft we go. I don't want to need guard. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to go in like, we need this. Like, get a couple veterans in there, get Kappa out. Volson, like, he's still on a rookie deal, so let him stay there for depth. Heck, I wouldn't mind Cody Ford coming back. Like, Cody, not as a starter, not as somebody that I think's first guy off the bench. Like, I want him in as a depth piece, somebody that can play a lot of spots in a pinch, in competition. Like, so yeah, bring a couple veterans in and bring Cody Ford back. Go into the draft, maybe take a guard or two, just see how the board falls. But I'm really wanting to get some young, explosive guys. It's a deep D line class, so yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. What about you?
No, this is the same. Like, I mean, obviously Kappa's got to go, for sure. That's one thing. I would definitely keep Volson as a backup. But whoever you're bringing in to replace Kappa and replace the starter in Volson, they've got to be ready to go. They've got to be glass eaters, per se. They got to be there immediately day one to make an impact, because that's exactly what we need. Now with Matt Lee that we drafted last year in the 7th round, the center, I'm interested to see because obviously he's really good, and in the preseason he showed it. Obviously he's coming in a couple games that we needed him, or I think like late in games. He's played pretty good. Do you? Because and I know people have talked about it too. Like, do you think that he'd be willing? Like, I don't know how good he would be at it, but do you think he'd be willing to move to guard or Ted Karras? Maybe
See,
go
I
to
think
guard, because I think we need him on the field. Like, I think he's valuable being on the field versus off of it.
Yeah, I think this. I think when training camp rolls around, that's going to speak a little bit to him. You know what I mean? Like, let's see what he's looking like now. Obviously the preseason, that'll be interesting. See how the kid plays. But he's a 7th round guy. He's small, undersized, but if he can play ball, he can play ball. So the job of the coaches need to be, what's your best 5 guys in there, and figure it out. Then if it means moving Ted to guard and having Matt Lee play center, then sure. Like, if it's working, like, go for it. If you don't feel comfortable and confident with it, then maybe not, I guess. Like, but I don't know. I don't know what to expect from him. I know some people are really high on him. Some are like, yeah, kind of like where I'm at. So I don't want to see, an undersized guard out there like getting bullied around or anything like that. And I don't want to put the kid in a bad spot. But I think it'd be better, like, if we could put him at center and move Karras to guard, would probably, see how that looks, see how it works if we have to. But me personally, I'd rather have a veteran guard or a veteran guard and a high end draft pick playing right or left guard, like whichever one, and then if injuries happen and you have to mix things up, then go for it. But I want some talent on that offensive line. I don't want, like, you could kind of band-aid it with like a Zeitler or something like that and but you're going to have to draft some young guys and they're going to have to hit. Like, how many offensive and defensive linemen have we drafted the past few years and not hit on? Like, that number is just getting just so far out of control. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, don't get me started on Jackson Carman.
Yeah, like a reach and not, so you got him, you have what was that one dude's name? Trey Smith or Trey Hill. And then
I wish we had Trey Smith.
Yeah, Trey Hill. Who was the dude that played at LSU with Joe? The defensive tackle.
I don't know. I know we had Randy Moss on the tight end a few years ago, but I'm not.
But he wasn't drafted. He was undrafted free agent. But yeah, we've put. It's not that we haven't put like an effort into drafting guys, but just they haven't panned out. And at some point, like the Bengals, they got to get more scouts, dude. Like 4 scouts, 4. Like, dude, I'm not saying you need. I think the Browns have like 30 or something. Like, they got a crazy amount, like 26, and that's not helped them much. And sometimes you can have a bunch of just too many voices in the room, but 4, that's crazy. Like, I could see like 10. So then each person you could split up and have like not this crazy amount of regions to scout. Like, you're scouting so many players. Like, there's so many players being overlooked. Like, doesn't matter how many connections you have and how many people you can talk to. Like, you're with 4 guys, you're not getting true evaluations of all this talent. There's just too much talent out there, and for what the guys are doing for you. So yeah, you have coaches that are doing a little more work in that realm of who they like and stuff, which is good. Like, that's cool to be able to get the coach's opinion, but I feel like the coaches are also they're a lot more invested than other teams. Coaches have to be, so they're not able to focus on different game planning, like all season stuff, what they want to do and emphasize and just stuff like that, man. Like, at least get us like 10 scouts, like add 6 more. Like, I don't know. Like, what do you think about that? Because I just can't even, I don't even know how to like talk about it because that number is just so ridiculous.
No, yeah. The scouting department, we definitely need some bodies in there. Like, whether they're good or bad, like, give them a shot, because like it's a lot of work on these coordinators, these coaches, to have to try to do all that plus whatever. You got to rely on some help for that. So no, we definitely need more people in the scouting department. That's for sure. But back to the offensive line play. I wonder, because we did get a new offensive line coach, Frank Pollock's gone.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how much of a philosophy change would do to help. Because I mean, maybe even a Bolson. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know much about Scott Peters, and his background on when it comes to developing offensive linemen. But like, I mean, it's maybe there's a different philosophy there. I know Zach has the offense that he wants to run in mind and everything, and obviously some things scheme wise change from year to year. But like, I wonder how much of a philosophy that would take to maybe like improve the offensive line. Like, it's a breath of fresh air getting someone new in there other than Frank Pollock. That's one thing I'll say. Like, I just wonder how much it'll help.
Yeah, I don't know like what his. I don't know. I don't know much about the guy, and I haven't really dug into it. I listened to I think it was Dan Horde. I think it was Dan interviewed him, and they talked about like or maybe it was Dave Lapham. It was one of the two. And this was maybe a month ago. It's been a hot minute, a few weeks ago, like right after the hire. And he was talking about like how he's done like MMA and a bunch of different things like jiu-jitsu. So hand fighting, I think, is going to be interesting. I think the guys, there might be there might be an attitude shift within there, which I think would be good because it was just getting sickening watching Joe get laid out and having late hits. Like the one that comes to mind is Max Crosby. Like Max Crosby lights him up like 2 times in a row after the whistle was blown, and nobody does nothing, says anything. Like, yeah, Joe's like, oh, it's cool, bro. Whatever. Like, Joe's how Joe is. But at some point, one thing, Joe needs to protect himself a little better. And I love, for the most part, he's just even kill and just calm, cool, collected. Like, that's great. But, Tom Brady, he'd flip that switch every now and then, have a little fire and start yelling at people. Like, and I'm not saying I want Joe to get that way, but, maybe if he, gets a little, just a little more vocal with players, like that might just do something to the offensive line, or even like the referees. Like he's got to start like advocating for himself on some of these hits that he takes, and not just, hey, like it's kind of like that bully that you just let always like steal your lunch. And well, if you always let somebody mess with you, they're just going to constantly do it. But the one day you say, hey, dude, like, not giving you my lunch money today. Like, you might have to square up and fight him, but like, dude might not steal your lunch no more. So at some point, like Joe's going to have to start advocating for himself a little bit. In the offensive line, like they need to have a little bit of a backbone and protect their guy, and not just like, oh, Joe's hit again. Okay, maybe I'll help him up if I feel like it. Like, how many times has Joe hit? And you just see Joe like just pulled himself off the ground like son of a gun, man. And it happens. It happens more times than it should in a season, in a game. Like you'll see it multiple times throughout a game. And it's just somebody has gotta. We need some dude that's got an attitude. Not an attitude in a bad way, but somebody that's got like a dominant personality, an alpha style personality. It's like, no, you're not. I'm not going to be pushed around. This is not accepted. This isn't okay. Like, there's got to be somebody like that in that room. And I just don't see it. I don't know if that was a coaching thing. Like, maybe it's a Joe thing where he's like, hey, like, I don't need no penalties. Like, if whatever happens, I get hit. Like, don't be standing up for me. I can fight my own battles or something like that. Maybe Joe says that. I don't know. But
he's nicer than me. I'll tell you that, because I know he bought gifts for him, expensive gifts too, the last couple of years, and the line play hasn't been that good. So I don't know if I would have done that. So
yeah, these samurai swords and these watches that he said, oh, they're I forget what they were, but he's like, oh, they're not whatever, some crazy expensive watch, but they were still a really expensive watch.
Yeah,
it's like, dude, these guys ain't done nothing. Like, you're giving these dudes, I don't know, like a $2,000 watch or something. I don't know how much they were, but still, I wouldn't have got them shit. I'm like, no. How about you guys get me something for carrying you? But I don't know. If they play great and out of this world, then it's like, yeah, whatever. But when you're playing really, really bad, it's just, I don't like it. I really want to see the Bengals take a step in the run game too. So that's a position. I really like this kid, Ollie Gordon, coming out. He's probably a middle round draft pick. Was that kid from Tennessee, Sampson? This Tennessee kid, he's I think he was clocked at like 23 miles an hour. He's not big. He's very much like Chase Brown. Super explosive, very like fast twitch dude, but he's got high end speed too. 23 miles an hour is moving. So he can put that foot in the ground and just burst, but he also has the top end speed. And I think he's built a lot like Chase Brown. I think he's like a 5'9", 190, 200, somewhere around there. But that kid, I like him a lot. So my thought with it is you have him and Chase Brown. You can just work them in and out together. You're not predictable on passing downs, running downs. And so they're just in that aspect, it's you don't know what's coming because they're very similar. Now, I don't know what the kid's like in like pass blocking, if he's got any pass blocking. Ben said Tyler Shelvin was the LSU kid that we're talking about a little bit ago.
Yeah, that's who it was.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. But yeah, I think he'd be a lot of fun. If you want somebody to watch just for fun, watch up what is his first name? His last name's Sampson from Tennessee, running back from Tennessee. It's going to bother me what his name is.
I was gonna say one of them, I'm like intrigued to see if like we actually take him. Cam Scadaboo. That would be a good.
Yeah, I think that would be a good pairing with Brown. I really think so too. His name's Dylan Sampson, but Scadaboo, yeah, that kid. He's hard to tackle. He's got size. You can kind of do it all. So yes, I wouldn't mind that. There's this defensive player too that I was watching a little bit ago. Let me find it. He's from Tennessee as well, Norman Lott, and he's kind of like a third round dude. I liked him a lot, and I really haven't watched a lot of him. And earlier today, I was just watching some random games and stuff, and I was like, this guy, he is nice. Like, I haven't heard a whole lot of hype or talk about him, but Norman Lott from Tennessee. So 2 Tennessee kids I really like. And he's got a little pass rush juice and pretty good run defender. I don't know what his PFF grades or anything like that. It was more of like an eye test for me.
Yeah.
I haven't looked up like what his run defense grade or pass rush grade or win percentage or any of that. But eye test, I liked him. I really did. Do you got any guys that are like kind of your draft crushes right now?
So I have the draft guide from Dell and the Project Game Day, but I'm not going to lie to you. I haven't looked at it in the past couple weeks. I've kind of been taking a little bit of a Twitter break over the last like 3 or so weeks, kind of just trying to get my mind right before the free agency starts. I've been watching shows, been kind of looking at some media stuff, but I'm not gonna lie, like some of the names I have forgotten some of the names, but I would like if it comes down to pick 18, and let's just say we make no moves whatsoever. Are we taking guard or are we taking D tackle?
I think. Ooh. So we're saying
that's if T comes back. I'll
okay.
put that out there too.
So let's just say we sign T and we sign Trey. We get extensions on both those guys.
Yeah.
I think it just depends on who's there. You know what I mean? Like if Calvin Banks is there, I definitely think he's in the running. Trying to think of this other kid. He's got a weird last name, starts with like an M. I know a lot of people's high on him. I think Dale was talking about him the other day, but he talks about a lot of people, so it's hard. I'm sure he was talking about him, but he might be a dude, but look at what that defensive line did, And no matter what, the Bengals are going to have to bring somebody in. Like they're going to have to. Like their hands forced. Like they can't just go out there like Alex Kappa and Cordell Wilson. Like, yeah, we're running this back again. Like there's going to have to be some change. BJ Hill's another free agent, so
yes, yeah.
Are you bringing BJ back? And we know the way BJ plays when he doesn't have, that complimentary player beside him. And I mean, we got the 2 young guys, Jenkins and what's his name, Jackson. What the heck, McKinley? Yeah, McKinley Jackson.
Yep, McKinley Jackson.
We got those 2 cats, but they're, I think they both showed a little bit of promise and stuff, but I don't think they're going to be like. I don't think they should be full-time starters, at least at this point.
No.
So that's tough.
Maybe in another year if they play from like Just switch out in rotation. Like I really
Yeah.
liked what I saw out of Chris Jenkins last year, and both him and McKinley Jackson, like in certain spots, like they played really good. I
Mhm.
think I'm not sure, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but and these are two different positions too. But I'm pretty sure they seen more snaps last year than the Miles Murphy. I assume.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
Murphy didn't
So
see many.
yeah, and that's the guy we drafted in the first round a few years ago, just trying to replace, trying to get that to be the next edge rusher, on the other side of Trey. And I mean, he's even played good in some spots too, but when he's on the field, like he barely gets on the field. And
Yeah.
you could say the same thing for like the corner positions. Like we kind of fumbled the bag with Dax Hill a little bit. Like we were going to
Right.
play him at safety, and we should have just played him at corner. Where he's
Mhm.
actually I think better at. And
Yeah.
he was
And where he
actually
played
coming,
in college, so
yeah, he was coming into form, and then he got
yeah.
hurt. And then obviously you got the likes of, Fig Newton we drafted, we liked him.
Mhm.
DJ Turner, DJ Ivy, both of them I thought were great picks. And some of the, obviously before, they got hurt, they were playing really well also. Um, so it's like, and Geno Stone, I don't know if he's coming back or not. I would assume he is, but
Yeah.
Von Bell does not need to be starting next year. And I know last year I said bringing him back was great because we were sorely missed him, but then we quickly realized like, oh well, he just like declined as soon as he
Well,
went to
he
Carolina and
should have
came
been like
back.
a Mike Thomas, you know what I mean? A locker room coach, a coach on the field, like one of the guys that's suiting up, but a coach for you. And
Yeah,
he got way more snaps than he should have. Jordan Battle's another one that was,
yeah,
throughout the whole season. Like, just put Battle in, see what we got. Like, Dejon Anthony, like, really sucks that he got that penalty on 4th and 16 that shouldn't have been called. It was, yeah, when you slow it down, it might look a little worse than what it was, but it still didn't look that bad. When you watch that play in slow motion, it still didn't look that bad. The guy's making a play towards the ball. He's not contacting the receiver for a tackle or a holding him or anything like that. He's going for the ball, making a play for it. It was just a bad call. I
And
think I would like
if
to
that
see.
by the way, if that's any other team in the league that's not the Chiefs, I
Yeah,
don't think that gets called.
I don't think so either. I really don't. And the thing of that was too, the referee, like, the ball was tipped in the air and falls to the ground before the referee even threw the flag. It was like, what, did you think it was third down? And you're just like, oh no, fourth down, I better pull this out. Like, if it was that immediate and you were that confident, probably should just threw the flag right then. But it was the thought that if you have to question it in that time, in that spot of the game, probably shouldn't throw it, right? Like,
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
shouldn't throw the flag. If it was something that was so blatantly obvious that you're like, oh, penalty right there, let me get this and throw it. Like, no, he sat there and just, oh, ball's tipped. Oh, nobody's making a play on it. Hits the ground. Okay, penalty.
And
Like,
as bad as that was, and it was bad, that's nowhere near as bad as the do over on third down.
the what?
Nowhere
Sorry.
near the do over on third down against the Chiefs
Oh yeah.
in the championship game. Like, how are you going to let like 30 seconds to a minute to 2 minutes go by in real time? Let the play go off, and then like after the play's over, oh yeah, the play before we got to do over again. Like, what?
Yeah, that it's comical. Like, it's just like, what are we watching, man? I'm gonna watch a lot more college football next year.
Yeah.
I say it a lot, almost every year. Like, hey, I'm gonna dedicate time, make sure I'm watching college football. That's not just Ohio State. But yeah, I'm after these refs, man. I just can't really stand it, and I don't really like watching other teams except for fantasy football reasons. And it's like, okay, I got this guy playing, I got AJ Brown playing, or I got Terry McLaurin, or just whoever. So I'm gonna watch these other teams. If the Bengals aren't playing, like,
Yeah.
if the Bengals are playing, then yeah, I might switch over during a commercial or something. But yeah, I just don't watch other football teams a whole lot, really, unless it's a Monday or Thursday or a night game and I don't got nothing going on. But yeah, I want to watch more college football. Cedric Jackson, he's another kid that didn't play a lot. And kind of in hindsight, it's like, yeah, I wish these guys would have played a lot more ball so they could have got better. They could have seen live action. But at the end of the year, we're playing for a playoff push and hoping for it. So it's like now it's too late in the year that you can't mess up. So you have to play the guys that you're confident with. There's no time to really experiment, in my opinion.
And two other guys too that I like on the team, and I don't know how much more playing time they'll get this year with Pratt possibly being gone, and I don't know who we're wanting to draft. If we do draft linebacker, I don't know who the Bengals have on their radar. I would personally love Jack Sawyer, but not until like maybe round 2. But like
Yeah.
Shaka Hayward, like and Nanjameta.
Yeah.
Nanjameta was the preseason hero last year.
Yeah.
And that's like I feel like he can make an impact in certain spots, and then same with Shaka Hayward. Like he played really good in key moments last year as well. Like those, I mean, I don't know if I would have him down like on every down like I would Logan Wilson, but like I would try to get those guys more playing time as possible too, because I liked what I saw from them last year.
What is this kid's name? I'm trying to look him up. Demetrius Knight from South Carolina. I know his last name's Knight, but I couldn't remember. Demetrius Knight from South Carolina. He's a linebacker. I was watching him. He's kind of like that middle round linebacker, probably 4th round dude, just through like mock drafts and where I've been listening to things, like probably 4th round guy. I like him a lot. Give him a watch if you want to watch somebody too, because I don't know how he looks fast. He looks like he plays pretty dang fast. He seems like he tackles pretty well. He's a guy that I'd be interested in. And then Jacob Parrish from Kansas State, I believe. He's a cornerback, and Jacob Parrish is a dude, and he's going later rounds. Like he could be somebody that we could bring in. Like I think this draft's got a lot of really promising defensive players. So for me, I'm solidifying that guard spot. Unless Donovan Jackson's there in the 2nd round, like probably 1st round is going to be edge, 2nd round defensive tackle, 3rd round if that Watts kid from Notre Dame's there, like safety. Like yeah, we got safeties, but that dude can play, and he might, especially with Al Golden, like that right there could be a really solid pick for us. So I think this year we need to go defensive heavy. In there's some other guards and players out there, like I'm sure, but if we get surprised and they sign Milton Williams, like okay, yeah, I'll go ahead and take your guard in the 1st round, like cool. But it just always scares me when the Bengals are doing that, because they just haven't hit on it. They haven't been good at hitting on those picks. So it's like bring in a couple veterans, and fix this hole that we have, a giant hole that protects our franchise quarterback, and let's move on, have it done. Like quit talking about it year in and year out. How many years has it been since we talked about this? Like since 2015 when Witt left. Like it's been 2015 is when he left.
No, he was there for a couple more years after.
Was he?
I think because we had the playoff game, we lost the Jeremy Hill special, and then
sickening.
I think it was they brought him back, but I don't think he stayed. He didn't stay at least 1 year or 2 years after. Like he was at least 1 or 2 more years, and then he was gone to the Rams. But I think if I'm not mistaken, did he not play? He played in that game when Jared Goff was the quarterback of the Rams, and they played the Chiefs in that Monday night, which was that high scoring game, right? Like Whitworth was on the team there, right?
I don't remember. I think he left the year that Joe got there.
Oh, he left that late? Wow.
I think. Now that I'm thinking about it,
I need to refresh my memory.
I don't know.
That's crazy.
It was. Yeah, I do remember him playing after that 15 season. So he might have left like after the 16 to 18, like somewhere in that time frame. But then he goes off.
Cedric Ogbuehi, I think they drafted him to be the replacement.
Yeah, it was Ogbuehi and Jake Fisher, and Look how that panned out. Like you take two, uh, dude. It blows my mind, brother. It's wild. So I don't know. Hopefully Mims plays great. Hopefully we get a little more athletic and not just have like, yeah, we got big guys on this offensive line, but these big dudes are getting pushed around. They're not playing with good leverage. They're like, well, I don't see the point in having these big dudes that aren't doing anything. Like, I'm not saying I want that dude that was, there was this kid that was, he was at the Senior Bowl and he was like, I think 5'11" or something. Offensive lineman, a smaller dude. But like, I'm not saying get that small, but if you can play, you can play. Like, if you got the film out there and you got the ability, like, let's just get the best talent, the best players. I think that's something the Bengals are really going to, if they do free agency right, they should be able to really kind of go best player available because there's so many holes that they still need to fill. You know what I mean? So free agency would be nice, like they did a couple years ago, where they really went for the defense. You know, we brought in Cheeto, we brought in Eli Apple, DJ Reader,
Mike Hilton,
Trey. There's somebody else I'm forgetting.
We traded for BJ. We traded for BJ Hill before the season started. Yeah.
And then we got Von Bell. Like we got the one guy that was I think he played for Seattle and he was a cornerback. He was like the tight end lockdown dude, bigger guy.
Because he was on the Super Bowl roster. I know who you're talking about. Yeah. I know who you're talking about.
Like, yeah, we went heavy, man. We went heavy on that defense. So the Bengals, they just need to choose right now. Like, hey, what positions do we want to fix? Like, if you like sign our guys, like that's the main thing. Make sure we retain our dudes, and then okay, I think the defensive line is a really deep class. I think there's some really good defensive players. Go ahead, get these veteran guards, guys you know can play, bring them in, and then go into the draft and hey, we're going to get some young athletes for this defensive team or for this team on defense. I think that's what I want. And like I said before, just for the main reason I don't know how much I trust the Bengals drafting offensive line. So
the one name we didn't mention today on the defense, I think we mentioned every other DB we had. Cam Taylor-Britt, Juice game.
Yeah, this year.
Yeah.
Ouchie. Come on, CTB.
He was what, a third rounder when we drafted him, right? Third rounder?
Second. We got him in the second.
Second rounder, okay. So
Nebraska.
And obviously he was our number one corner, obviously. And then he made that really cool interception, almost like the Odell Beckham type in week 2 against the Chiefs. And then like I don't know what it was, like every game, it's like almost like every game I watched, you see him talking like to the other players smack about something, and then all of a sudden he has a bad game or whatever. And it's like, I love Taylor-Britt, and I hope he improves, but he's got to improve this year because like his game this year was not, outside of that catch, he really didn't have a good season.
Yeah. I don't know what was going on with that kid. Like he just, he didn't, everyone juice gang, but like he didn't have the juice, bro. Like the juice was not there for the kid. Might help. Yeah, man. We talked about that a little bit ago. Maybe you tuned in a little late, but yeah, we had a good little chuckle about the 4 scouts in our scouting department, Ben. But yeah, it would help. I think I'd imagine having a few more eyes out there to evaluate some talent, and maybe some fresh eyes even to help evaluate talent would probably, I don't see where it would hurt. Like I don't know. I would be like, hey, I'm putting my foot down on this dude. Like he's solid. Like just maybe watch him, like just maybe look at him and tell me what you think. Like I've had, and the big thing is too, is like the interactions you can have sending guys to games, like sending the scouts to games to see, like my big thing is like sideline leadership presence. Like what's it look like, are other guys coming up to him? Are they like helping keep guys engaged and focused? Like there's a lot that you can see at a game that you can't see on all 22. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
not only that, you can talk to people. You can talk to the training staff. It doesn't have to be coaches. You know, it doesn't have to be the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, the linebacker coach, or whoever, you know, you're targeting, whatever position. But, you know, you can talk to training staff. Hey, what's this guy like? You know, is he a good kid? Is he, you know, respectful? Is he kind? Is he a jerk? Is he arrogant? Is he, you know, does everybody like him, or is everybody not like him, or is he just, you know, a average type of guy that, you know, doesn't have much to say, doesn't have any input? Because that's not really being a leader if you're not putting input into training meetings and different stuff. So I just think there's more, you can get so much by being there in that you're not going to just get on film. And with 4 scouts, you're, you know, on best, you're getting 4 games. Like, or if, you know, they play some off days, like Saturdays and whatever weird day college might play on, like, yeah, you might be able to send them to a few 6 to maybe 8 games at most in a week, but you're not going to have people at every game that you need to have them at. So you're just watching film, and I don't like that, man. Well, we covered a lot. You got anything else you want to talk about? I told you that I'm open to staying on as long as you want, or covering more if you want to talk. But
so, I guess I'll ask you your take on the Hall of Fame. We talked to Jeff Hobson the other day on our show. I think it was on Tuesday, and we asked him because he's actually a voter in that process. He's a voter, and we asked him because, you know, obviously Ken Anderson's been waiting for over 40 years. Ken Riley waited over 40 years before he actually got it, and unfortunately, it was a one after he passed away. But obviously that process, and there's some other players from the 70s and 80s that deserve to be there too. But like, you got Ken Anderson, that's a main one. Willie Anderson, one of the modern ones, as they call it, probably the best offensive lineman of the 2000s, maybe. I mean,
you know how many sacks this man gave up, and how many years did he play? 12. I think 12 years.
I believe so. Yeah.
And he gave up like single digit sacks. Like, and I think it's like 3 or something. I'm sure there's somebody in the chat. We got Travis and Ben and quite a few listeners that might know, but I'm thinking it was like 3 or 5 sacks that he gave up. It was super like small comparison to how many snaps in years this man played in the league.
And like, yeah, and I don't know I mean, I don't know like what everybody votes on, but I know Jeff, like, you know, that he talked about, like, you know, like a lot of these winning organizations, like the Bengals just made, like, probably just playing catch up because we didn't really have that for so long. But at the same time too, you know, Corey Dillon, you know, played really great on a bad team, but then he went to New England and won a Super Bowl. So I mean, you can't really say, you know, we don't have a winner there. Like he won a ring. Willie Anderson played, you know, in playoff games with the Ravens when he went there. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. So because he played there for, I think, a couple years. Who else am I forgetting? AJ Green probably should be I think he should be a first ballot Hall of Famer. But like the whole process to me is like just, it's weird because Geno Atkins, like I mentioned earlier, like second all time in Bengals history in sacks, and if not for him, like Aaron Donald probably wouldn't have been a first round draft pick, maybe like a third or fourth round guy, because he was the prototype for Aaron Donald before Aaron Donald came to the NFL. And obviously we know Aaron Donald's going to be a first round or first ballot Hall of Famer. There's no question there. Geno Atkins before him, and it's like, he's going to have to wait another 20, 30, 40 years. Like AJ Green, like the only person I could see, like maybe they skip the process behind it is Burrow. But even then, like that depends on how the rest of the career goes. Like, you know, if we win, like just like to me, the process is kind of stupid. And the fact that they like lowered it from like 7 or 6 in previous years, now they're doing 4.
Yeah.
That's just kind of crazy work there.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think Geno paved the way for these smaller 3 techs. Like, he paved the way for it. And I don't know. Like, I don't know where that like looks. All I know is Big Willie deserves to be in. It's way overdue. The Bengals have 2 players in the Hall of Fame, right? Like, what we got, Lamar Parrish and Anthony Munoz.
Ken Riley and
Or Ken
Munoz.
Riley, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ken Riley,
Yeah.
Anthony Munoz, and then obviously Paul Brown. But
well, yeah, but that's crazy, man. That is insane for a team that the Bengals. What, they 68? They became a franchise. Like, that's that's such a long time. And you're telling me 3 players, like 3, like it,
2 technically.
I don't know what,
one was a head coach. Like,
yeah.
And Paul Brown was like the probably the founder of like how football's played today. Like the first one with like the headsets or the radios in the helmet. Like, dude was
It's sad, like, honestly. But the Bengals got to help themselves, right? Like, and they're doing it by doing the Ring of Honor and stuff. But that's something that should have been done years ago. It's simple. It's easy. Like, how difficult is it? High schools do it. High schools hang banners in basketball stadiums. You know what I mean? Like, it happened. That does not make any sense to me. And I fault the Bengals for it, because the Bengals have done Bengal things that have made them where we are today. And if you're not going to fight for your guys, then what are you doing? You know, like, you need to be the biggest advocate for your team. Like, you need to say, like, no, these dudes, like, we're doing everything we can, because we're making sure they're in our Ring of Honor. We're making sure we have this thing that's just shedding light on their greatness. AJ Green, I think, I wish AJ had a couple more like 1,000-yard seasons. I just don't know. There's so many good receivers and so many receivers that are coming up, but there's not, look at Julio Jones. Like, that, I believe it was the same draft class. Like, that was a really good draft class.
Antonio Brown was that class too.
Antonio Brown.
Or he might have been the year before, I don't know, but yeah.
Was Megatron in that draft class?
No, Calvin Johnson was, I think he was either 2009 or 2010. He was like, because Stafford was
so
in 08, and I think
so a couple years before.
Yeah,
but dude, I think, imagine having, if you thought AJ Green was good and great, imagine him with Joe Burrow, a guy that's putting the ball on the money, not making you stretch out, not making you wait for the ball. Like, how many times did AJ, you see him streaking down the sideline, he slows down and has to come back for a ball, or he's put in a bad spot. Like, them little out routes and in routes. Him and Andy were, that was money. That was 7-8 yards every play. AJ was so good at those, and Andy was good at them too. But you got to look at the quarterback level. Andy was a good quarterback. He's not Joe Burrow. Andy was your average quarterback that had a really good defense and really good. If you put Joe Burrow on that team, that 2015 team, that's a Super Bowl all day. Like, it would have been wild. Now, Andy, he did have issues, because when we made it to the playoffs, there was times, AJ was injured. I think the Colts game, AJ was injured. I think Marvin Jones and Sanu, I think those dudes, I think there was like all 3 of those guys were hurt. And if all 3 of them wasn't hurt, it was like 2 out of the 3. And they got worked over pretty good. But I don't blame Andy for that one. That's going to be an awfully tough way to go. Like, that's an uphill battle. But if you put Joe with that offensive line, with that defense, with those receivers, like, man, that would have been crazy. And AJ Green would look like his numbers would look a lot better. His health would probably have been better. You know what I mean? Like, they did play a year together, but at that point, AJ was, he had his ankle thing, and he was just, I think he was ready to leave. He franchise tagged and just like, yeah. I don't know, but I really wish AJ would have had one more season of 1,000 yards. but he did have like I think the first 5 years of his career was 1,000 yard, 1,000 yard years for his first 5 years, I believe.
Yeah.
And so his numbers are great. I just don't know with just some of the great wide receivers that are out there. I think if you take him as the wide receiver, he like just his potential and his overall like what type of ability he had. Yeah, I think you could have an argument all day to that his talent is Hall of Fame worthy talent. I just don't think his numbers are going to stack up against the longevity of it, I guess.
No, I get that. I
Yeah.
get that. Like, I mean, like, and I think too, like, AJ Green obviously was really great. He was the number one receiver for our team for a while, and obviously, the only one you could compare him to when he was in the league in his prime was Julio Jones, and of course, you had DeAndre Hopkins on the come up at that point as well. But I mean, it was those two. Antonio Brown was they were the three best receivers in the league at the time. And obviously, Antonio Brown has his antics now, like the CT
Yeah.
thing or whatever. But he was great. He was a great
He
receiver.
was Antonio Brown. Man, he would make me mad, but he was.
I don't think he's gonna make the Hall though after everything he's been through the last couple of years. But
Yeah,
maybe I don't know.
his numbers, dude. His numbers are crazy.
Yeah.
If that dude and there's numbers are about as crazy as he's been acting, but yeah. So I see where you're at.
Yeah, AJ Green, I feel like is going to get this lost in over time, like the same way a lot of our players have, just lost over time. Like great numbers, like it's like I think I've seen a picture. It's like imagine in 40 years trying to explain to someone or trying to explain to a Hall of Fame voter just how good AJ Green was. I feel like
Right.
that's something that's going to happen because like a lot of these like players that we have, obviously Ken Anderson, I think he's a better quarterback than Dan Fouts. Dan Fouts is in the Hall.
Yeah.
Like, come on now. Like, Ken Anderson won MVP. Boomer Esiason, you could debate that one. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer personally, per se. He's the third best quarterback in our team's history, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, he got us to Super Bowl. He won MVP. But, yeah, like just being skipped over and over again. Like, yeah, we introduced the Ring of Honor, like, way too late. Should have been honestly introduced like when Paul Brown first opened in 2001. But that's besides the point. Like even so, like and I think it was the Jaguars. Tony Baselli, I think is what his name was. Their offensive tackle just got inducted a couple years ago, and as far as I know, he's the only Jaguar I think in the Hall of Fame. And right now, we're only beating them by 2, and they've only been in existence since what 95.
I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
that's crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, dude, yeah. And the thing is, like, the numbers don't lie, And when you have greats talking about how just dominant and good Willie was, then why is those voices not being heard? Like, I agree. Like, you don't want you want the Hall of Fame, just like the Ring of Honor, to be like top tier guys, and it's got to be really like inclusive. Like it's got to be people that stand out on the reasons of being there. And Willie does, like he fits that criteria. So in my opinion, the Hall of Fame, just like the MVP, shouldn't be exactly about wins. It should be your value MVP, most valuable player. Like Josh Allen, like I like Josh Allen. He's kind of like the darling of the NFL. And I think Joe Burrow's. I think Joe's there too, where he's really loved and recognized throughout this nation. But I just think there's favorites, and people play favorites, and they have like their idea of what certain players should look like quarterback wise. Josh getting the MVP, good defense, good line. Like his weapons aren't as good as Joe's. But if we won just a couple more games, if we could have closed out, the Baltimore game, if we closed out the Chiefs, the week 1 disgusting, loss to New England. There's so many games this year that we could have won. They're, real tight games, should have won. Does Joe Burrow get in? Maybe he don't change his numbers at all. He just won those games.
So
we make it to the playoffs.
I don't know if you follow the NBA off or that much, but do you know a player by the name of Russell Westbrook?
Yeah, I know Russ. I don't know him personally, but I know Russ.
Yeah, so he in I think it was 2016, 2017, one of those seasons, he averaged a triple-double, which is like the first time someone's averaged that in a regular season, I think, since Oscar Robertson in like the 1960s or whatever. And he won the MVP. But the only caveat to that was I think the team was like they made the playoffs, but they were like a mediocre record. And that's what I equate. Like I figured like if somehow Joe Burrow, like after the start that we had this year, if he would have willed the team into the playoffs, he would have got the Russell Westbrook MVP award this year. Like he would have at least like been close. Especially because after the hole we dug ourselves in, and if he would have been the one to dig us out of it and like get us there, I think that would have swayed a lot of voters, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like Josh Allen wouldn't have won it.
Yeah. And he's in great company, right? Like
Lamar,
as much as we don't like the Ravens, Lamar's Lamar. He's different. He's special. He's got a team around him that he's got a coach around him that really plays to his strength. And that's why, they bring in a great running back that adds to that really good run game they have. And then the wide receivers, I saw a stat that all the passes he threw, like the separation between the defender and the wide receiver was more than almost any other quarterback to receiver in the league. I don't think he has any receivers that are, these standout, crazy good receivers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's the scheme and the way they're playing that gets these guys open so he can make these throws that aren't crazy, difficult throws that Joe Burrow always has to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you look at it that way, when Joe's playing, the game's more difficult for Joe because the scheme that he's playing within, right? Does that make sense? So
I'm
not taking anything away from Lamar because I think he's a really good quarterback. But I do think I think it's between Joe and Josh Allen, because it wasn't like Josh Allen has these crazy great weapons around him either. He's got some good players, but nothing. He doesn't have a Jamar and a T. Mike Gesicki's out there. We got solid weapons for Joe to play with. But if you look at the offensive line and how quick Joe has to be in his reads, and even the scheme of like Joe has difficult throws constantly. So I don't know if that's, and I know our guys run pretty good routes. So, is the play call just not as good to get our skill players open? You know what I mean? Like, how many times do you see other teams where they just make something look easy, where they need 4 yards for a first down, and that looked pretty easy. They on 1st and 10 they pick up 5 yards, then it's 2nd and 5, and then 3rd and 1, and then they get a first down. They go down the field, and then they pick up 10 yards, and then 12, and then a gain of 4. And it's just like, okay, they're taking not just chunk plays, but it just looks easier. The Bengals have a way of making things look difficult, where Joe has to play at this superstar level, and Jamar does, and T does, and Trey, and like those guys, they have to play at this level, and it's not fair. Like, so that's why I think Joe should be the MVP. Like, that. And did you watch like the defensive player of the year stuff and all that?
I know Trey got second behind Patrick Surtain. I know he got first place votes too, which is incredible because like last year he had the same amount of sacks and he had the same amount of sack differential versus the second leading sack player on our team, and now he gets votes for it this year. So I'm actually pretty proud of that. But
dude. I think Trey got snubbed hard because he had man, there was no help. You know what I mean? Imagine if we had a Geno, maybe not even a 70% of Geno Atkins, prime
Larry
Geno
Oak Larry Ogunjobi, would
Yeah.
be another. Yeah.
Yeah, imagine Larry O with this year. Like the defense for one's going to play a lot better. We're going to win. We'll win a couple more games just in that aspect. But Trey was a one-man wrecking ball. You know what I mean? Like the dude was crazy. And I remember I can't remember which game it was, but Trey gets he has a big play, and I don't know if it was like a fourth down stop or if it was like a strip fumble or something, but he goes to the end. He's like standing close to the end zone, and the whole team's just around Trey, and Trey's just talking his talk, like showing out. You know what I mean? But that right there, that's a leader. That's what I'm talking about with having scouts that can be at games. Like everybody on that defense, and Trey, he's not like that. Like he's not like that to us. What we see as like a vocal dude, but I guess he does talk a little. He talks a good bit of smack and stuff like that. But the dude's just a competitor. He just doesn't talk to the media a whole lot, and when he does, he's still he's shouting out faith and like talking up his guys and stuff like that. So I like Trey a lot, man, and I get like the age thing, but Trey he's not falling off a cliff. You know what I mean? And if he declines, he declines. Okay, but that's going to suck paying him that money, but there's nothing that shows that. You know what I mean? And he's playing such a good level, like reward him. And we did give him an extension, and it was probably bad on him and his agent for taking a deal that like the following year he kind of regretted or whatever. You know what I mean? But I really think reward the guy because he's your whole defense. And for a 30-year-old or 31, he's not going to get this deal on the market like you're going to get for T. And you know how much I love T. Like, I've talked about T for years, pretty much since I've had the podcast. Like, it's been me just saying T. Now it's gained traction from I guess there's been a few like big name podcasters and Twitter guys that said T, we should keep T. So then everyone jumped on this bandwagon, it seems like. But like, so it's not that I want to get rid of T, but I think I think you get more value out of T. I know that. I think we all know we could get more value out of him. And Trey is the heart of that defense. So letting him go or trading him, you're just not going to get the same in return. So,
and we shouldn't either. We shouldn't.
Yeah. Anthony says, "What up? What's up, Anthony?
What's up, Anthony?"
But yeah, I guess if it came down to it, I'm keeping Trey over T, just for the reason the defense is so bad. In the Bengals, if they were smart about it a couple years ago, T would have been done, and we wouldn't even be having this talk. If it just didn't happen, so there's no point, I guess, talking about that too much. But I think we need to keep Trey. I really want Trey, and the Bengals have the money; they should keep all of them. They should. So, Ross says, let me pull this up. Ross says Trey has enough left. He is a mutant. He is, man. That dude, he's just different, and he's a competitor. And he gives his all. Like, remember when I think it was I don't know if it was the Tennessee game or if it was the Kansas City game. It might have been the AFC Championship when we won, and Trey's just sitting on the bench. Oh, I just lost Tyler. But Trey's sitting on the bench. His arms are out to the side, and he was so exhausted he couldn't even get up. And that to me just shows like the dude gives his all, and I love that. Let's pull up a couple more. I want to definitely say thanks to everybody leaving comments and stuff, and everyone tuning in, listening. Ross says ownership is making money hand over fist. There's no excuses. Yeah, and with the cap and everything, there's definitely no excuses. They shouldn't be paying. Whoops. There we go.
I'm back. I'm not sure what exactly happened there. I thought I was clicking to see a comment, and all of a sudden I'm off the screen. I'm like, oh, okay. Like,
Yeah, I'm glad you caught me. You did that in the middle of a rant that I was going on with Trey, because if it was like in the middle of that weird like, oh, what am I talking about? It's like, okay, Tyler's gone. I guess the show's over.
so
No,
yeah, so Trey Hendricks. It's funny because like obviously Miles Garrett requested a trade or a few weeks ago, and I think it was Adam Schefter. They were talking about on ESPN saying what it would take to get Miles Garrett, like a couple firsts, like so many of these draft picks or whatever, so much draft capital, right? And like obviously we're not trading Trey. I don't think we should. We need to sign him. But like if that like just say like Trey Hendrickson just decided to up and do it, like it's just crazy to think like how good Trey is. Like he was better than Miles Garrett this year. He's like
mhm.
arguably top. Like he's a top 3
He
edge
should have
rusher.
been defensive player of the year.
Yes,
You,
no,
like,
yeah, I agree. He's a top 3 edge rusher. Like you can make the argument for T.J. Watt, you can make the argument for Miles Garrett, but there's 2 of those guys are maybe better than Trey Hendrickson, but no one else is as an edge rusher. And
mhm,
like the fact that like if Trey decided to do it, he wouldn't get that same respect like
yeah,
for that trade capital and everything. But like I said, it's not going to come down to it. It shouldn't be happening. Like we need to
no,
sign Trey and obviously get him some help, because if he has another season next year where he's like 17, 18 sacks and then the next guy behind him's like at like 4, there's a problem there.
yeah. When you have one guy that has half your team's sacks, that is not good, bro. Like, that is not a recipe for success unless you have a guy that gets like 22, 23 sacks. And then it's like, okay, like, dude's a freak, like, that maybe, but still, even at that, like, you need those like 4 sacks, 7 sacks, 8 sacks, the Trey with 15 to 17 to 18 sack range, and then throw in the Mike Hiltons every now and then getting a sack, and a linebacker or 2 getting a couple sacks. Like, that's where you got to be at. You can't be at, 17 and a half your sacks taken up by one dude, and the next person. We didn't have anybody else in double digits.
No, we didn't.
Like,
Not past 2 years we haven't. No.
so, that just shows alone he's doing everything. And there's no real pressure coming from anywhere else. So he's got to win quick, because if he doesn't, then he's just flushing the quarterback. You know what I mean? So there's no pressure there. Quarterback's able to flush out, or the middle's open. So
And the
Trey's
fact that he's doing this too and getting held on every single play.
every play.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Oh, don't get me started on that, bro.
Yeah.
Because that's yeah. I'll sit down, I'll watch it, and I feel like such a homer. But I do it for other teams too. I'm like, ooh, like that's a bad hold. Like, when I watch
Yeah.
other games, I'm like, ooh, refs missed that one. Like, but man, I'll watch Trey, and I'm just like, that's bad. And a lot of people say it's the like the swim move or whatever, and they get under it. The tackle's able to lock them up or something, but some of them just look so bad that it's like, I don't think it's just that. I think a hold's a hold. So I don't know.
Except for Logan Wilson, he didn't hold.
Yeah.
No, he did not. He did
Super
not.
Bowl just yeah, that year, that was the year, man. And if we had any competent offensive line, just for, not even a second more, we could have
Yeah.
could have won it. Jamar streaking down the sideline. What a play that would have been. You know what I mean? What a play. Like, I've run that through my head a lot. I've never watched the Super Bowl back. Have you?
A couple times just because it's
Yeah.
on, and I just didn't feel like switching the channel, but like not really the full game either, just like bits and pieces of it, because I'll just be like on my phone or something. But I've seen it on the TV a few times like since then, and some of that's painful to watch. Like I think the most like rewatch like scene from that Super Bowl, I think is like right after the halftime where Evan McPherson sitting on the sideline jamming to Eminem. I think
Yeah.
that's like the most rewatched scene from that game I've watched since
Yeah.
then.
Yeah. I haven't. And it's not that like, oh, I'm just that bitter about it or anything. It's just I don't feel like I don't know. The opportunity was there.
Yeah.
We didn't take it. It was really crappy that we had to have that offensive line, but Joe, and it's amazing that Joe got us there with that offensive line. And the defense was really good, man. The defense was playing really good football. Lou was getting a lot of head coach talk, and I don't know. Hopefully the defense can get back to somewhat of that level. The thing was, it was a bunch of bend don't break and capitalize and make get these strip fumbles, get interceptions and key moments. And yeah, that's nice when it's working, but man, if it doesn't, it's not always ideal, So I'd rather a good defense that just complements each other on all phases and can, get stops when we need to get stops, make the plays when we need to make plays, obviously, but not give up, just drive after drive. And because then the offense gets in rhythm, like, yeah, they might be giving up field goals and now it might be 9-14, but they controlled the clock, they moved the ball and they're getting in rhythm. And now, okay, now we got a couple touchdowns and now the Bengals are down 3 with a minute left or something. Or we're up 3 with a minute left, and Joe, we don't run the ball at all. So now we got to pass it every down. That's something I just want. I really want to get I really hope the running, just the offensive running game is better because I think that's going to win us games too. I'm not saying it has to like take the ball out of Joe's hands, but like get that running game established. It's going to open so much more up. And you don't have to, be the best pass blocker in the league, but if you have a solid running game and you mix that in, it's going to make the pass blocking a little easier. It's going to get these offensive linemen moving. It's going to open things up for Jamar and T and Joe. Like that's what I'm talking about when it's like, oh, everything looks difficult. Well, it looks difficult because everyone knows we're throwing the ball 70% of the time.
Yeah.
So, that's easy for you to take gambles and blitz us differently and disguise coverages and just fall back in coverage. Like it's just, yep, we're just we know we're throwing. So
yeah,
I would really like to see us be able to run the ball a little better in that running back room. We're going to have to draft somebody. And I think, Zach Moss with his injury and stuff and the money he's getting, I think he's going to have to be cut. And I really don't know who's out there on the market, but that room's pretty thin, like once Zach Moss leaves, like we got Chase Brown. So I don't know. Chase Brown, a draft pick, you're probably going to have to bring in somebody in free agency. And
I mean, if not a free agent, Jenkins from Ohio State, Travion Henderson, maybe as a backup. I don't know. Like, obviously, don't spend high draft pick on them, but if it's there and it makes sense, and wherever they're at, take them.
Yeah, I just don't necessarily want to take because running back's a cheaper position. Yeah. So in the draft, I don't want to take. I want to take one running back. Like the two dudes I talked to you about. Like I like both of them, Sampson and Ollie Gordon. I like both those guys, kind of middle round dudes. I know there's more out there. I just haven't watched too many of them, or none of them really showed me as much as those two did for like what rounds, that 3rd, 4th, 5th round area. But I think we could probably get somebody free agency wise to come in that's going to give us solid snaps, that's going to be able to play decent for us, and then draft one. So we only got 6 picks. So, I don't want to rely on an undrafted free agent and a draft pick, and I don't want some bum undrafted or some bum like free agent just like, oh, we had to sign him because
the
running back room sucks. So yeah, I don't know. It's a cheaper area, so the Bengals could probably, bring in somebody that's pretty good. And I don't know. I don't know who's out there. I haven't looked enough. But I just Zach Moss with his injury, and I just don't think. I don't know. He didn't show me enough when he was playing that was like, yeah, that guy would have won us games if he stayed healthy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely wasn't the same as he was in Indianapolis when he took over for Jonathan Taylor when Jonathan Taylor was hurt. Definitely wasn't the same as he was.
No. All right, man. We've been on here for almost 2 hours, dude. You got anything else you wanna hit on that you can think of, or?
I think we hit on a lot of topics that created for some good discussion. It was nice to talk about some of the offseason, look back on the Chiefs getting their butt kicked again, and
Yeah,
talking about that. And no, it was. I think we've covered just about pretty much everything. So
awesome. Well, yep. Big shout out to Tyler for coming on. Thanks to everybody that joined us, listened, and left us some comments in there. We appreciate that. I think Tyler's going to be making some more appearances with us over here. If I'm correct, am I correct on that, bud? You gonna be tagging in a little more?
Yeah, if the schedules align, obviously I still do. I'm a co-host with Anthony and Will on the Rule the Jungle podcast, and we do that just whenever we get the chance and we put it out. But yeah, if the schedules align, I'll join you when I can, man. That's for sure.
Boom, perfect. Thank you, dude. We got Anthony and Tony that will be joining me. That's the big thing. The schedules align. It's always tough when everyone's got jobs and families and working crazy shifts and whatnot to get everything to line up. But definitely appreciate when we have people come on. Tyler and Anthony and Will and those guys, they have a real good show. And they had who'd you say you had on? Dan Horde?
No, well, we've had him on before, but we had Jeff Hobson.
Or yeah,
last week, yeah, on Tuesday. So it's out there. We're only audio, so we don't have a YouTube channel yet. But Podbean, I think it's the same one that Dave Lapham uses. Like Spotify, you can listen to it there too. Like anywhere, mostly you get your podcast from. Just not YouTube yet. But yeah, it's I think like I said, I've been off for a couple months, so I know they've had a chance to get some guests on too. Anthony and Will have so, but I'm back, and yeah, so everything's gonna be. I'll be back going forward. So there we go.
awesome. Well, like I said, appreciate it. Appreciate everybody in the comments. Make sure to give Tyler, Will, and Anthony a listen. And yeah, thank you guys. Who day?
Who day?